You've just finished work. Your stomach is growling, so you stop by the grocery store. You grab a loaf of bread, a carton of eggs, a bottle of milk, maybe a few snacks for the weekend. You head to the checkout. The cashier scans everything, looks up and smiles. That'll be 1 goat. You laugh, but he's serious. I don't own a goat, you reply. That's okay, says the cashier. We'll also accept 2 chickens. So you pull out your wallet, but it's worthless. Your credit card, worthless. Your phone, worthless. Cash, coins, Apple Pay, Google Pay, none of it exists. Instead, you desperately look around your house wondering, what do I actually own that someone wants? It sounds ridiculous, but for thousands of years, this was completely normal before banks, before coins, and before paper money. People bought things by trading other things. This system was called bartering. Today, many people think, wouldn't that be simpler? After all, you have something, I have something. Let's trade. But if the entire world still relied on bartering today, modern civilization wouldn't just slow down, it would almost completely stop. And the reason isn't what most people think. Money feels so ordinary that we rarely stop to ask why it exists. It's just little pieces of paper, metal discs, or nowadays, numbers on a screen. None of those things have any real value by themselves. You can't eat money, you can't build a house out of it, you can't plant it and grow more. So why does everyone want it? Because if you ask anyone, they will sure want it. But humans didn't always think this way. In the old days, there was no universal currency. If you needed something, you had to convince someone else to trade with you. For example, in a small farming village nearly 8,000 years ago, one family raises chickens, another grows wheat, another makes pottery, another catches fish from the nearby river. Need a clay pot? Trade some grain. Need fresh fish? Offer vegetables. Need new clothes? Perhaps trade animal skins. Simple. In fact, for small villages, bartering worked surprisingly well. Everyone knew each other, people trusted one another. If your neighbor didn't have what you needed today, they probably would next week. No one was trying to buy a computer parts from 20 different countries. Life was local, trade was local, and that simplicity made bartering possible. As villages became towns, and towns became cities, something unexpected happened. People became specialists, instead of everyone producing a little bit of everything. One person became a blacksmith, another became a carpenter, someone else baked bread every day. Others spent their lives weaving cloth, making tools, or raising livestock. In the beginning, this made life better. Specialists became incredibly skilled, products improved, and communities became more productive. But specialization also created a problem nobody had seen before. Let's say you're a fisherman. You wake up before sunrise, spend hours on the water, and finally return with 20 beautiful fish. And apparently you need a new pair of shoes, so you walk to the shoemaker. The shoemaker looks at your fish and says, "I'm sorry, I already have enough fish. I really need firewood." Suddenly, your fish have become almost worthless. Not because they're bad, not because they aren't valuable, but because they're valuable to the wrong person. So now you have to find someone who has firewood, who also happens to want fish, then trade your fish for wood. Take the wood back to the shoemaker, and hope he still hasn't sold the shoes. It sounds exhausting, because it is. Economists even have a name for this problem. It's called the double coincidence of wants. For a trade to happen, both people must want exactly what the other person has, at exactly the same time. And as more jobs, more products, and more people appeared, finding that perfect match became harder and harder. It was like trying to solve thousands of tiny puzzles every single day. But this wasn't even the biggest problem, because even if you finally found someone willing to trade, you still had another impossible question to answer. How much is anything actually worth? Sure, you finally find someone willing to trade. Great. Now comes the difficult part. How much is your fish actually worth? Is one fish worth 1 loaf of bread? Maybe. But what if the bread is fresh? What if the fish is small? What if there's a storm tomorrow and fish becomes scarce? The price changes constantly. Now imagine buying something much larger. A bicycle. How many chickens equal 1 bicycle? 20? 30? Nobody knows. What about a laptop? Would it cost 2 cows, 10 goats, or 500 eggs? Without money, every single purchase becomes a negotiation. Not just expensive things, literally everything. Like buying breakfast, getting a haircut, repairing your roof. Every transaction begins with the same conversation. What will you give me? Now imagine this happening millions of times. Every single day, modern cities would spend more time negotiating than actually producing anything. Money solved this problem with one simple idea. Instead of comparing every product to every other product, everything is compared to one common unit. Whether it's a loaf of bread, a car, or a skyscraper, they all speak the same language: price. When people hear the word money, they usually imagine coins made of gold and silver. But those came much later, long before governments printed banknotes. People simply began agreeing that certain objects were valuable enough to trade with everyone. In different parts of the world, different objects became money. Cowrie shells were used across Africa and Asia for centuries. In ancient Rome, soldiers were sometimes partly paid with salt. In fact, the English word salary comes from the Latin word salarium, which is linked to salt allowances given to Roman soldiers. On the Pacific island of Yap, people used enormous limestone discs called rye stones. Some were so large they couldn't even be moved, even when the ownership changed. The stone stayed exactly where it was. It's like buying a house today without moving the money you used to pay for it. It sounds strange, but it worked because everyone trusted the system, and that's the secret. Money doesn't have value because of what it's made from. It has value because people agree that it does. One of the most fascinating examples happened during World War II. Inside prisoner of war camps, people from different countries lived together. They traded food, soap, chocolate, coffee, blankets. At first, they bartered. Someone traded jam for bread, another traded tea for butter. But soon, a problem appeared. Exactly the same one ancient civilizations had faced thousands of years earlier. Finding the right trade became difficult. Then something unexpected happened. Cigarettes started replacing barter. Even people who didn't smoke accepted them. Why? Because they knew someone else would accept it. Cigarettes were small, easy to carry, easy to count, and everyone trusted they could trade them later. Without any government, without any bank, without anyone making official rules. Money had reinvented itself. Economists love this example because it shows something remarkable. Money isn't something governments invented. It's something humans naturally create whenever trade becomes complicated enough. Now imagine, you're trying to save money for retirement, except money doesn't exist. Instead, you've decided to save potatoes, thousands of potatoes. Seems reasonable until winter arrives. Then they start rotting. Maybe you choose milk instead. Now it spoils. Perhaps chickens, some dies, and others stop laying eggs. Even if you save something durable, like firewood, now it takes up enormous space. Throughout history, one of money's greatest advantages wasn't simply buying things, it was storing value. A single coin could preserve wealth for years. A digital bank account can preserve it for decades. Now try doing that with fish, or apples, or tomatoes. Without reliable savings, planning for the future becomes incredibly difficult, and if saving is hard, building businesses becomes even harder because every business depends on one thing: investment. So you have a brilliant idea. You want to build a bakery. The problem is you don't have enough flour, or ovens, or workers. Today, you can visit a bank, take out a loan, and start your business. But in a barter economy, who will lend you the resources? Would someone really loan you 3 cows, 500 kilograms of wheat, and promise you'll repay them later? Loans become risky, investment slows down, businesses struggle to grow, and entire industries will never appear. Without money, companies like Apple, Toyota, Samsung, or Amazon will probably not exist. Not because people lacked creativity, but because organizing millions of trades without money becomes nearly impossible. And if starting a business sounds difficult, wait until you see what happens when countries try trading with each other.